All right, so welcome to the first ever Engineer in Residence Program webinar specific to virtual connections. And this webinar was designed for what's happening right now with COVID-19 and beyond. So the idea of virtual connections really can extend beyond what we are dealing with at the moment and maybe create some new connections for the program as well. But I'm sure most of you are here today just to learn a little bit more about what to expect for what's happening at this moment in time, and that's where we will start. So just wanted to say hello. I'm Rebecca White, or Becky White. You can see my face there up on the screen. I am now the primary point of contact for the Engineer in Residence program. You may have been receiving some emails from me over the last few weeks. We had with us during May to August, we had some summer co-op students with us, Ali Landy and Matthew Chin. They have both now returned to their programs. They're both from the University of Waterloo. So you might get if you tried to send them an email recently, you might have gotten a bounce back from them, but they very kindly got everything set up for us for the coming school year to do the best that we can for the EIR program in 2020-2021. And Erica Lee Garcia, who is the founder of Engineers of Tomorrow, and she is a huge support for all the work that we do, and we are so grateful for Erica being, having the initiative to get things going and being the one behind the scenes with all kinds of amazing initiatives and supports that keep things going. So if you're here today, you most likely know what the Engineer in Residence program is, but just thought we would take a second to sort of ground ourselves. So the Engineer in Residence program is our engineering outreach program, us being engineers of tomorrow, but it is really important, and we try to acknowledge anytime we can that this program was actually founded by Professional Engineers Ontario, or PEO, as many of you know them. And it was founded actually in 1998. So it's been around for some time now. And very simply, the program pairs engineers with schools to go and do presentations and activities and really just inspire those students in the areas of science, technology, engineering, and math, or STEM, as many of you are familiar with that acronym. So we know most students grow up and know about policemen and firemen and or firefighters and doctors and lawyers as professions, but engineers and the engineering profession has sort of notoriously done a poor job in marketing itself. And so many kids grow up not really knowing what engineers do, what it means to be an engineer, and really what's possible with engineering. So we really are hoping to change that. We can bring role models into the classroom and create really positive experiences for those students through fun hands-on activities, using inclusive and strategic messaging, and create some engagement. So some pretty standard or basic logistics for the EIR program. If you're new to the program, you may not have seen this before. If you've been around for some time, this shouldn't be too new to you, but it's always worth reviewing. So really, one of the key ways in setting up yourself and the students and the teachers and the EIRs and everyone involved for success for the year is to start off by defining expectations. Making expectations clear is just a really good best practice that we've seen work over and over again with the many matches and partnerships that we've been able to create through this program. So it really we really like to continue to drive that point home, that that communication, that one simple step of setting those expectations is a really key part to the success of this program. So that can look like setting some goals. So trying to hit the target of once a month or maybe once every six weeks of connecting with the class. So setting up those goals, how's that going to work? What's that going to look like? What works for you? Thinking about how you're going to come up with that relative content as a team. So we're here to support you in this work. We're not going to tell you the way that you have to do it. We're here to say, figure out what's going to work for you as a partnership between your engineer and the teacher to find out what's going to work best for the both of you. And then another best practice we've seen work really well is when you can set plans out for a whole school year. So this is, I think, a pretty unique program in that you're matched up for the whole year. So it means that you have lots of opportunities to connect in different ways. And so mapping that out for the year can, just help with preparations. It just gets dates and calendars, and that sort of practice we know drives the right behaviors. Some other tips around logistics are figure out the best method of communicating and frequency. Set some goals maybe around how often you're going to connect, but have a very, in the beginning, have a very quick conversation around what works for you. Email, phone, in person, obviously not so much right now. What's the preferred method? Make sure there's no, if you're using email, make sure you don't have any weird firewalls that are going to be blocking emails. Just those simple practices of taking a second to talk to each other about that is really going to set that relationship up for success, that working relationship. And so generally speaking, the EIR experience is designed to support hands-on activities. We like to use messaging strategies that talk about the societal impact of engineering, all kinds of resources available on the website, eir.ca/resources. So if you haven't had a chance to check that out, that is there for you. We continue to update it when we get new information, new resources become available. So please check that out. It's a great place to start. And of course, please let us know if something's not going as expected. There's like 200 matches we have in place at the moment. So there's a lot more of you than there is of us. So we really rely on you to contact us if something is not going as expected so that we can get involved and help. All right, so we know that things aren't operating as usual or as expected or as normal, whatever language you might be used to at the moment. So with COVID-19 pandemic, we know that there are changes to schooling, and of course that impacts the Engineer in Residence program in some very direct ways. So schools could be moving to full or part-time online instruction, and this can be evolving and changing over the coming weeks and months. EIRs might not be allowed into classes to visit for a while, and even if they do eventually become able to visit classes, they might not be comfortable visiting in person. And then if and hopefully when EIRs are able to visit, there will likely be some additional health and safety procedures to follow. So visiting a school might not look the same as it did pre-pandemic. So our goals for today are to just identify some of these challenges of working in this virtual environment, and then figure out ways that we can overcome these challenges, and then really spend some time on how to create these virtual connections between the EIRs, the teachers and the students and everyone that's involved. Our goals at Engineers of Tomorrow are really around creating positive experiences. And so that's not limited to in-person. So we want to think about how we can do that in a virtual environment as well. So let's get started just with some some engagement from all of you. I'd love to see some comments in the chat, what kind of experience you've had working on a virtual team, or engaging in the virtual environment in some way, and what are the challenges that you faced in those virtual situations. I'm just going to scan through some of the comments as I'm giving everyone a chance to maybe chime in on those questions. Yes, Bev, thank you very much. Bev put in a comment, don't interrogate the teachers, engineers can be intimidating. There's just a lot, everyone's got a lot going on right now in the world and in their lives, so patience is key at the moment. It's the start of a very very different school year, so we are asking for everyone's patience, and we are here to support the teachers and students in any way that we can. Steve, can you hear my voice now? Hopefully. Okay, good. Valerie, you were having trouble accessing EIR.ca. I'll have a look at that. Should be working okay. We are doing some IT work on the back end, so there could be something just going on right now. Amy, so you're sharing that Google Drive folder worked really well as a best practice. We at Engineers of Tomorrow, we do use all the Google Suite and find it very helpful. Oh, thank you, Don. Don's commenting that he had some great experiences in the spring with his virtual class. Pierre, just send me an email offline and we'll get you all sorted out, okay? So I'll comment a little bit on our own experience, my own personal experience, I guess, working in a virtual team at Engineers of Tomorrow. We have been working remotely or virtually for many years now. So we were actually fortunate that when all these changes happened, for us as an organization, it had minimal impact, but it's given us that those years of experience have given us opportunities to figure out what works well in some cases and what doesn't work so well. So the challenges I would say that we have experienced are really around communication, and people misinterpreting an email or misinterpreting a chat comment, and so really over communication has been key to the success in what we've set up. Engagement can be difficult and communication can be difficult, yes. Yes, Bev is giving her feedback here. It was a very emotional time. Bev, I'm assuming you're referring back to the spring when you were trying to engage with your class. Bev is a returning EIR, so pivoted to meeting over Google Meet with a small number of students. Oh, sorry, with students 3 times per week. Cultural differences, yes, and body language can be difficult. Yes. Excellent. So I'm going to keep going just so we have time to get through the slides here, but continue to share your experiences in the chat with each other, please. I think that's really helpful to hear about what others have had going on. So, oops, sorry, let me go back. Here we go. So for the next few slides we have, really we've tried to pull from some research on the most common challenges that are seen when you are working in virtual teams or working in that virtual environment. So there's 5 here that we're going to talk about over the next few slides. Building trust, maximizing process gains, and I'll explain that one a little more. Basically, it's just efficiency. Overcoming feelings of isolation around working in that virtual environment, balancing the technical and interpersonal skills, and then recognition and assessment when you're working on a team. So with the first one, building trust, and I think this is a really important one to start with because it really sets the tone for the whole school year, the whole program year. I mentioned this is not a one in and out type of an experience. These partnerships, these pairs, these matches have been set up for the whole year. So we really want to do our best to get things started off on the right foot so that we have a smooth year and can support each other and the students in the best way possible. So with virtual environments, there's that added layer of how to build trust in this situation. So trust is made up really of 2 components: character. How do we go about getting results? What are our motivations? Caring, humility, ability to align those actions with our values, and then competence. So our abilities to actually deliver the results based on our training, our skills, knowledge, education. And it really, really comes down to communication. And I mentioned that was something we found ourselves at Engineers of Tomorrow in our own experience is communication. So a few tips when it comes to building trust. So value people, use technology. So the critical factor in virtual teamwork is people, not the technologies used. And I think it's just worth taking a second to remember that and remind ourselves of that. Just because we might have some state-of-the-art technology, or maybe we have some not so great technology, it really comes back to the people. And so, we know virtual team members, whoever they are, the engineers, the teachers, the students, they need to feel valued for who they are and what they can contribute. Lack of transparency will kill a team. So again, coming back to trust. So in the research we were reviewing, a significant number of people on virtual teams can feel that they're displaced or maybe out of the loop, and these feelings can lead to the perception of being treated unfairly or that they're less trusted than someone else that's on the team. So it's something, again, it just comes back to it might feel redundant, but that over communication and making sure there's visibility is really important when it comes to building that trust. Reducing uncertainty. I mean, there's just so much uncertainty at the moment with everything that we have going on. So when people are working in a virtual space with reduced opportunities to communicate, that uncertainty is amplified and intensified. And that uncertainty just continues to fuel anxiety and fear and can just get things all sort of stirred up. So surface and manage conflict quickly. So with a virtual environment, it's easier to ignore that conflict. So having a way to surface it, talk about it, get through it, manage it is going to be really important in building trust. And then just work with teams early on to develop some shared norms. So what are the expectations, some standards, set things up early on so that everyone knows. It comes back again to expectations. So number 2 was maximizing process gains, so also known as be efficient. This is really just around respect. I think when we're connecting virtually, we want you to work together in the best way possible so that you can be efficient and you can be productive. So that's going to look a little different for for everyone. That's going to be a very individual thing. But again, talk about it. Ask how you can maybe support your teacher partner or your engineer partner in how you can help be more efficient in the time that you have when you're online. Maybe there's things you can take offline and do to prepare so that when you come together, things go a little bit more smoothly. You want to stay focused on your goals and coming back to that idea of creating a positive experience for everyone. So overcoming feelings of isolation and detachment. This goes for everyone involved in the program this year. Even us at the program office level, we love to hear what's going on in the classes. So when you can communicate back to us and tell us what's going on, it always makes our day, or it helps us know that something's not going well and we can get involved. But EIRs might be feeling a bit more isolated because they're not right up in front of a class. They're not connecting with the students in person, and vice versa, right? Teachers and students are going to feel a bit more disconnected from their engineer, just literally due to separation. So these are real feelings, and these are feelings that can affect that experience and that the connections that we're hoping are being created. So really, just again, we can't say it enough, talk to each other. That strong connection between the teacher and the engineer is going to translate to the class. If there's tension between the teacher and the engineer, the kids are going to pick up on it. They're going to know something's not quite right. So investing in your working relationship is going to translate into a great experience for the class. Just some basic logistics here. When possible, try to connect maybe over phone or even a video call. Someone had a comment there about body language. Emails can be misinterpreted. I've had it happen to me and by me many times. So that's a simple way to get through some of those challenges. And then maybe stick to a schedule. So it can be easy, again, in the virtual environment to let things go. But if you have regular check-ins scheduled simply for the purpose of staying connected, it can mitigate all of that. Balancing technical and interpersonal skills. So I love this. I love that this was included in this slide deck, because we really value diversity, and the partnership between the engineer and the teachers. You're all bringing your own areas of expertise to make a great team. So, for example, engineers might not have as much experience standing up in front of a group of students. That's something they might not have practiced in a while. Teachers are maybe looking to the engineers to bring some of that experience into the classroom, and the science and the application of that science, and help their students connect those concepts to the curriculum that they're trying to teach. You all bring something great to the team. So I really encourage you to focus on those skills that you can bring together to build a really strong team. So how can you balance these different skills? So again, communication, talk about those preferred methods of communication so that you are just, on a level playing field. Talk about some worries that you might have. It's okay to be a little vulnerable and say, hey, I haven't been, as an engineer, I haven't been in a classroom with grade 5s, for example, before. What do you suggest? Or the teacher might say, I'm really struggling with one particular curriculum area I have to cover. Is there something that you can do as the engineer to help me there? So just be open, be honest with each other so that you can build on the strengths that you bring to the team. And then identify, maybe there's some some areas that you want to improve on. And so be proactive. Think of ways you might be able to incorporate that into your programming. And then finally, but not the least important, I would say, is assessment and recognition. So when we're thinking about what this means for the engineer in residence program, and especially in a virtual environment, it's really important to celebrate your successes or celebrate your wins. Again, I'll go back to our own personal experience at Engineers of Tomorrow. We have it built into our weekly team check-ins that we do. We take 2 minutes at the end of the week where we celebrate a win. Maybe it's something related to a project we were working on, or if we don't have a work-related one, we even bring in a personal one. Like there's really a lot of value in celebrating those wins and taking the time to reflect on what's working well. And it can generate some good discussion. It can generate some good ideas. And if the teacher says, hey, engineer, that worked really well when you did that thing with the kids, well, that gives them some great feedback, and they can integrate that more, or you get the idea. But there is a lot of value in, especially in these times of uncertainty, that we take some time to kind of pat ourselves on the back. So let me just pause for a second. I'll just scan through the comments, because I'm sure some came in as I was going through the slides here. Just to see if there's any questions popping up. Garrett's asking, are the existing templates or presentations on topics such as what is engineering, what is civil engineering? Check out the EIR.ca/resources, Garrett. There are some links to other websites. There's nothing that we have in our program guide. Our program guide is really more activity ideas, but there are some links to other sites that have some fantastic presentations that I've used. Liara is asking, do you or anyone else on the call have an activity schedule from a prior year we could see for inspiration as we're coming up with plans for our own class? We don't have one at the program office, Liara, but if anyone on the call has something that they've done and would like to share, then please do. And then Liara's asking, any returning EIRs, can you share how you ran virtual activities in the spring? Yes, we've actually reserved some time, Liara. We have a couple EIRs on with us that are going to share about their experiences. Garrett, just send me an email and I can point you to the particular resource I'm thinking of if you weren't able to find it. Oh, John has a PowerPoint that he's willing to share and can show how he plans out the year too. Thank you, John. Okay, I'm going to keep moving on. So creating virtual connections, which is really the meat of what we're here for today. So before we jump in, we wanted to pause and really take a second to look at this this triangle here. For those of you who haven't seen it before, this is Maslow's triangle of needs. So during the pandemic and with virtual connections in place, feeling safe and developing a sense of importance is especially important. So for EIRs, working to develop a relationship with students is crucial before the students are able to feel accomplished and reach their potential. With all the uncertainty that has been sparked by the pandemic, these foundations are really more important than ever. So this is, I mentioned Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's a motivational theory in psychology, and you can see it comprises this 5-tier model of human needs. The needs that are lower down on the hierarchy must be satisfied before the individuals can attend to those needs higher up. So from the bottom of the hierarchy upward, we have the physiological needs like food, water, warmth, rest, and then safety, security. Then comes longing, love and belonging, self-esteem, which is where we start to see that feelings of accomplishment coming into play. And then at the top is self-actualization, where those students are able to fill that sense of potential. So that begs the question then, how can the engineer in residence program foster a sense of belonging? And for the engineers that are on the call with us today, this slide's really for you. Really, to start things off, we want you to focus on connecting with students beyond engineering. So some simple ways you can do that are just work to learn the students' names. Depending on how you're connecting with them, sometimes their names are up on the screen, so that makes it easy to remember. Like I can see all of your names today, so that makes it easy for me. But work to learn their names. There's a lot that goes, a lot that goes to creating that connection if you're able to engage with someone and integrate their name into that conversation, right? And then find out what they're interested in. What do they want to talk about? Like you'd be surprised, I'm sure, at some of the feedback you get and some of the things that they want to hear about. And then at the end of the meetings or the activities or whatever it is you're doing, make sure they know how you're feeling, that you're excited to see them again. And again, this can be hard to do virtually, but we really need to think back to that triangle I just showed on the other slide. We need those students to feel connected and involved so that we can build up to that sense of potential. So how do you do that then? How do you connect virtually? So I'm not going to tell you the one way, that's because everyone's going to do things in their own, what works the best for everyone, and the partnerships that you're forming as well. And there's also going to be certain regulations in place for the teachers and the schools and the school boards. And so here are our suggestions for what could work. So if you're doing something live, real time, video conferencing. So again, choose the platform that works for you or that is allowed to be used. And you're able to get that real time connection then, and hopefully even face to face, right? Video face to face. This might look a little different depending on the scenario that is going on in the school. You might have students in the school, so a group of students that are there and the teacher is with them and the EIR is joining them through video conferencing. Or you might have students that are at home and they can join real time. So video conferencing for real time connection. But don't dismiss recorded videos too. The EIR could record themselves explaining a topic or answering some questions that can be shared during an activity. So teachers, if you want to collect questions from the students and send them over to the EIR, or maybe you want to pick a topic and ask your EIR to record a short video about something, and then you can share those videos with the class. A great suggestion for getting started with the school year is just introduce yourself through a bio. Have fun with it. Maybe make it a little newspaper article or something. Teachers, again, can help with this by generating some questions. You might know what the students will ask, or maybe you want to get the students involved and kind of build up the excitement as they get to know their engineer. The idea here really is that this program is flexible. Virtual connections are new or relatively new for all of us, so really you need to make a plan that works for you. So planning an activity. Usually the number one question that we get is, what activity should I do? So I've mentioned already, we have some resources on the website. But where do you start? So we, break it down here. Start with just a topic or a subject. So if you go back to how you're planning out your school year, if you planned the whole year out, great. You can, work ahead and figure it out that way, or you can go kind of month to month, depending on how things are going. But just start with a topic or a subject, and it can sometimes be as easy as typing that into Google and Googling activities for grade 8, and go from there. If you're stuck, send us an email. We know where all the best places are to look, so we can get you started. And of course, one of the best places is our website there. But no, there's all kinds of amazing resources. So don't worry about finding activity. There's a wealth of them. We do find it helpful if teachers can introduce the topic prior to the EIR connecting with the class. So whatever that's going to look like, having the teachers kind of tee things up and get the class kind of get that framework in place, so that the students know that the EIR is going to be coming in, or the engineer is going to be coming in to talk to them about a particular topic. And then run the activity. So again, this is going to take some planning and coordination, but I know lots of engineers and they don't back away from a challenge. So be innovative in how this might work, or how this might look. And as I mentioned, we've got some EIRs on the call with us today who have actually been through this and are going to share their own experiences of how they did this. But just think about the parameters that you're working with. Are you dealing with a situation where the students are in class already? So maybe you could give the teacher a list of the materials and they bring them in, and then you conference in live and facilitate the activity. Or maybe the teacher runs the activity and there's some questions that come out of it, and you can support that through a recorded video. If the students are at home, you're going to have to think about what materials they would have available to them in their homes, and backup plans for if and when they don't maybe have access to those materials, and what that can look like. I'm very confident that this is very figure outable. And then, very important, follow up. Follow up with the class, follow up with each other. This is new for all of us. So what worked well? What do we need to change? Again, you're matched with each other for the whole program year, for the whole school year. So we have opportunities to tweak and adjust and pivot if needed. So please keep those lines of communications open and that feedback open. So I'm going to pause here again and scan through the comments, and then also there's a prompt here if you'd care to engage here. Do you have other ideas for connecting with in this virtual environment? What are the methods that you think will work the best? I did also want to mention, it's not on the slides here, but we have a LinkedIn group, an Engineer in Residence Program LinkedIn group, that I think is an excellent way for program participants to engage and share best practices, share resources, share ideas. So that's just another spot that is available. Okay. Let me still scan through. You guys are doing so well. Lots of chat going on while I'm presenting. Oh, it seems like there's lots of people interested in your PowerPoint, Dawn. Maybe we can get a copy up on the website. Garrett, you're asking the grades and ages of the students. We have engineers in K through 12. kindergarten through grade 12. Great tip, Bev. Your students will be excited to tell you what they've been doing. They ask them at the beginning of your meeting. I'm sure they'll have lots to say. Howard's asking, any good platform that the students can actually write / participate in conferencing? Definitely just check in with your teacher, Howard, because they're mostly in Ontario using Google Classroom and Google Meets, but it really does depend. Valerie's asking the experienced EIRs we have on our call today if small group activities work, or is it better to have individuals work alone? So you can maybe think about that if you're able to comment. I can tell you from our experience, Valerie, if possible, group activities are great for having conversations around engineers having to work in groups and the value of diversity in teams and all that sort of thing. Oh, and I think that's kind of what you're echoing there, Beth. Okay, I'm going to keep going. So keep on chatting. Thank you so much for all your engagement. So kind of going back to the idea of this is pretty new for everybody. Virtual connections are new. So things might not be perfect. So we want to focus on these as challenges, as problems that we can overcome. And really this is going to help us grow. So growth mindset is a concept that we really love, and we love to share this with as many people as we can. I'm sure most of the teachers on the call today have come across growth mindset or are actively using it in their practices. And for the engineers that are with us that maybe haven't come across it yet, it's just the idea that there's your abilities aren't fixed. You can continue to grow and develop. And so there's so much we could say on this subject, but I think the point here is that this is one of those opportunities right now, where what we're faced with at the moment with virtual connections and how we're going to do that, we really want to look at it as an opportunity to grow. So quick summary here, and then I'm going to open up the lines for our experienced EIRs that have gone through some of this already and can share. But before I get there, just this quick summary. So there are challenges to working on virtual teams. We know that. We're not going to pretend that there aren't, but we can overcome them. Communication is key, building that trust between everyone involved. Encourage virtual connections between the engineers and the students through video calls, recorded calls, maybe written bios. It's not limited to that. You do you and be creative with it. And then be willing to learn from the failures and figure out what works for you and for everyone involved. All right, so I'm very grateful to have some EIRs on with us today. I know we have probably more than this because I can see from the comments lots of great suggestions. So thank you so much to everyone. But I have two in particular that have some experience with this from different things that they have done. So first, I'm going to introduce Don Ball. So Don is an engineer in residence volunteer in Ottawa, has been for some time, and he was able to continue interacting and engaging with his class virtually in the spring when students had to stay home. And then following that, we will have Cassandra on the line with us, and Cassandra is an engineer in residence volunteer in Toronto. And she has a bit of a unique experience to share as well through a program that she has done called Camp NGs. So Dawn, it looks like you're off mute now, so that's good. I will turn it over to you.
Thanks very much, Becky. Hi, everybody. So after the schools closed in mid-March, I was still in pretty frequent contact with my schools. I volunteer at 2 schools, and until late June. And there were, I would say, 3 types of interaction. The first 2 have to do with the science curriculum. So I've been working in grade 4 with a grade 4 teacher for a long time. We really enjoy working together. And so in the spring, she was going to do the light and sound unit. And we did experiments. The kids love experiments. We should, whenever we go into a classroom, it should be hands-on as much as possible. Hands-on, hands-on, hands-on. Of course, in a virtual meeting, that's got to change. So the first type of experiment was an experiment where the kids did not have the apparatus at their house. And I was told we must not ask parents to go and buy new apparatus. So I tried an experiment, and it was just shining a laser beam through holes in a number of pieces of cardboard. And the setup, of course, is very finicky because you have to get the cardboard perfectly lined up for the laser beam to go through it. I do it with a laser pointer. I really didn't know if it would work well with the kids just watching a screen. In a normal classroom, they're watching my experiment. They're not actually doing it themselves, but at least they can crowd around and they can see it. Whereas here, they couldn't. You know, I was trying to present a view of the laser beam going through the holes in the different cards. The kids seemed to enjoy it. It seemed to work pretty well. So I'm not opposed to showing kids an experiment where they don't have the apparatus. The second type of experiment was where they had the apparatus. So an example was refraction. And all you need is a glass of water and a pencil, and you put the pencil in the glass of water, and that it appears that the pencil is bent at an angle, of course, at the surface of the water, and we explain why that is. Well, all the kids could do that, and that worked pretty well too. The third type of interaction I had with them was the Makerspace Club. And I would say that was a huge success. So we were showing them things they could do at home with technology. So one thing we could do is programming in Scratch. And Scratch is a wonderful free web-based program designed at MIT by educators. And it's very natural for kids. It's designed for children age 8 to 13, roughly. And we did lots and lots of Scratch programming. And although it's really designed for kids, it's got all the features of advanced programming languages. It's got variables and loops and if then else and stuff like that. Our particular school board puts a 3D printer in each school. And when the schools closed, I asked the principal, can I please have the printer at my house? Because if it stays in the school, I know it will not be used. But if it comes to my house, it'll be used. And then in the virtual classroom, we showed kids how to define 3D shapes that they could email to me via the teacher, and then I could print it out, and then the teacher could get it back to the kids at the end of June. So, so we did Scratch, we did 3D printers with Tinkercad, which is also free, web-based, and we did microbits. For microbits, you need some equipment, and unfortunately, the kids don't have the equipment, but you can do the programming for it free off the web. And so the kids can get the idea. Then when they go back to the classroom, if the school has some microbits, then they can actually download the code into the microbits. So those are some things that worked, and the kids, it was hugely successful. The kids loved it, the teachers loved it. That's what I have to say.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Don. And I know we're coming up on time here. So Cassandra, can you take a few minutes and share your experiences?
Yeah, so I started a camp called Camp NGs about 3 years ago, the same time I actually started volunteering for the EIR program. And it was supposed to be a 2-day in-person camp in Muskoka. So the kids got to, leave their siblings and their parents at home and then come up and experience basically a fire hose training of engineering for 2 days. So we had 3 options. We could cancel it, we could host in very small groups, or we could move to the online platform. So we decided to leverage that technology and use Cisco. So one thing the difficulty I found with online is that we use 2 platforms, WebEx Teams and WebEx Events. So the girls were transitioning between the 2. So I suggest just using one platform where the girls can chat, because it seems like the girls are very comfortable chatting, but not necessarily comfortable being on camera. And obviously that's dependent on the age group and the teacher, if they're going to show the kids and what platform they're using. So I think similar to Rebecca's engineer in residence training program, we have the same mission and vision. We want to inspire the next generation of engineers and problem solvers and game changers. So what went well? Having the girls and the kids be able to chat went really well. I know the school I'm at, they use iPads. So each kid could potentially use an iPad, and they have half the kids returning. So half the kids are staying at home and half the kids will be in the classroom. So I think that works well. And then, like somebody was saying, teamwork is great. In the past, every session I organized was hands-on and in teamwork. But I think this year we should do individualized activities just so the kids feel a bit safer. I know the teachers are asked to wear, a face shield and mask. So just in terms of activities, I think we should keep it individualized. And for Camp NGs, we arranged a little toolkit with all the hands-on activities inside. The parents came, they picked it up, and we mostly related it to food. So the girls were able to run the engineering activities and then eat it. So again, that's dependent on the principal, the school board, and the teacher, and then obviously allergies. So some of the tips I have are: don't be discouraged if it doesn't work out. Redundancies. So make sure you have a backup phone or laptop. Make sure you're close to your modem or plugged right in through a LAN cable. Obviously have fun. We told the girls they can go off camera, or the campers or students can go off camera if they don't feel comfortable. So I would say about half of them did that. And we also told them they don't have to stay on screen. So they can, go outside, or if the teacher wants to go outside and they come back after the activity's done, that's also an option. I sat outdoors like I'm doing right now. It just gives it a little bit of a different feel, a more relaxed feeling. And also, kids have a short attention span. So like Dawn said, I think stick with the hands-on activities. And then day 2, we actually ran a Dragon's Den competition. So if they're unable to find the tools, or you're unable to deliver these activities to the teacher beforehand, you could also run very similar competitions that can work on their presentation skills. So yeah, I guess if there's any questions, I'll read the chat. I don't think there's any questions here.
Thank you so much, Cassandra.
Yeah, it's 1 p.m. Sorry.
No, that's great. Yeah, if anyone has to hop off now, thank you so much for your time. We are definitely here to support you in any way that we can. So please email me if there was something else that needed follow-up after today. And thank you again to Dawn and Cassandra for sharing your experiences. Really, it's going to come down to just figuring out what works well for you and for the teachers and for the students. So that communication is going to be key, and having this network of teachers and engineers that are in the program is really such an asset. So take advantage of it. Engage in the LinkedIn group, like I suggested. We have some other ways that we're planning to help the volunteers collaborate together. We're going to try and set up some other ways to share with each other and network and share best practices. So just stay tuned for that. So yeah, I'll leave it open now for questions, comments, and I will do my best to scan through the chat. If there's something I have missed, I'll try and follow up with you offline. Dawn and Cassandra, Valerie's asking, is there anyone who worked with high school kids? Oh, so Dawn and Cassandra both work with elementary age, but we do have many EIRs that are working in high schools. So we have an opportunity to connect and share there with what works well with the older grades. All right, so I'll just be quiet for a few minutes. I'll keep my eye on the chat. But again, thanks everyone for joining us today. We're looking forward to being able to overcome these new challenges. I'll take everybody off mute, I think, in case you do want to say something. And so we'll post a recording of this webinar, as well as I'll share the slides with everyone. And I apologize, EIR.ca, there is something going on behind the scenes at the moment. That link doesn't seem to be working. We have been working with our IT folks to get some stuff cleaned up there, so I think there's just something not connected at the moment.